What's up, everybody? Sam Heine here, checking in with another episode of Street Talk. Hope everybody had a great week. It is a Sunday morning that I'm here filming. Got a cup of Joe next to me. I wanted to give you a quick rundown on what happened on this week's episode of Street Talk. And I had the opportunity to go out and meet with Evon Smith, who's the president and CEO of an organization called OneWest that does a ton of great developmental work in revitalizing the neighborhoods of the West End of Louisville. And that specifically we were in the Russell neighborhood, which is a really cool setup. Russell doesn't get as much shine as Portland right now. Portland's sort of one of those buzz neighborhoods, but Portland is so that you have the Ohio River, and then you have the Portland neighborhood, right next to it, and then you have the Russell neighborhood right next to that, and then you have the California neighborhood right next to that, and that is sort of the West End of Louisville. And they all have a very similar story. The history goes way back, and it was very much whenever those neighborhoods were established in the 1800s, and they were hustling and bustling. There was a ton going on, and there's these old mansions that line the streets because it was at one time, before old Louisville kind of came into play, and before a lot of these other neighborhoods started to pop up in Louisville, and people started to move out of the West End to go fill those neighborhoods. It was very much a melting pot of the upper class, the middle class. There was some lower class in there as well, but there was a good mixture of everyone. Local businesses were vibrant. The theaters and the nightlife were all very attractive back in the day. And like I said, other neighborhoods started to develop as they do in budding cities, and the West End went into its slump phase as we know it today. But it's really cool because, I'll be honest with you, I'm from the Highlands. I don't really get out to the West End a ton. My real estate work takes me there occasionally. I'll show a house out there in certain pockets, but I don't get out there a ton. So I had the opportunity to sort of walk the streets and, get some good shots of the neighborhoods because, you go down those streets and they're a little bit rough. They have some boards on some of the windows, but the architectural value and the design of those buildings and those houses and those apartment buildings, it really holds strong today. I mean, you can see it, and you can kind of see it as a spitting image of what it might have looked like 100 years ago. You throw a little bit of paint on there and maybe some foundational support, and you've got yourself a pretty nice little house. So it was kind of cool to go talk to her and to talk to her about the projects that OneWest has their hands in. They just acquired a slew of commercial buildings and multifamily buildings along Broadway, and they're working with organizations around town to get investment dollars in to fix those up and to breathe a new life in there, get some new businesses in there, stimulate the economy of the West End, and ultimately get residents to come back to the West End. Because like I said, as other neighborhoods started to develop, residents of the West End started to move out, go occupy the South End, the East End as they started to develop, old Louisville. So the ultimate goal is to start, making the West End look more attractive to residents, to businesses, and to revitalize the West End. Once again, if you have any questions, inquiries, curiosities about anything you see in the video or the neighborhoods of Russell, Portland, California, or any neighborhoods in general, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. My number is 502-500-6469, or shoot me an email at sam@familyrealty.com. Once again, happy to help in any way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this one rolling. What's going on, everybody? Sam Heine here with another episode of Street Talk. Standing here today with Evon Smith, who is the president and CEO of OneWest, doing a lot of great work in the West End, just in the overall revitalization of the West End, specifically the Russell neighborhood is where we're set up shop today, which is just a really cool there's just a beehive of activity going on in terms of development and energy and money coming in to restore what was once known as Louisville's Harlem. And we're standing right behind a building here that, well, a little strip, I guess you could say, that OneWest just acquired. And I wanted to get Evon's perspective on what OneWest's vision was for that building and what their vision was for the Russell neighborhood in general and where they see it in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be here, Sam, and very glad that you took the time to recognize our work. First and foremost, it's definitely the vision of the community. So on one side of West Broadway, you're in Russell. On the opposite side, you're in California neighborhood. So where you see Brown Foreman, that's California. And what was so important was to get the vision painted for us by the community. And on March the 6th, we just held a community charrette process where the community gave us an idea of what they'd like to see this area transformed into. And what we found that was not surprising, the community wanted to retain the existing buildings, which is the historic Royal Theater, and actually have it revitalized and add to it so that there could be more commercial and retail activity here in the area. We also bought this building here, which is the blue slushy building, and then the burgundy building across 18th that you can see in the distance there. So the idea is to raise the level of offerings in terms of retail, the quality of the retail, help the existing businesses that are here to grow and expand, and then work very strategically to revitalize the block to make it much more appealing and beneficial to the community.
Right. No, that's a great thing. I think that that you all are here doing that, and you're putting so much energy into that because, like I said, I mean, Russell was known as Louisville's Harlem at one time, and it was a melting pot of just local businesses and people going to the theaters, and the nightlife was alive, and all of the streets and architecture that you can still see today was very much alive in its heyday. And there's just so much potential in the neighborhood. So that's very cool. That's very cool. So, and you said also that down the road there at the 14th Street, you have a hand in that building as well.
Yes. So we have partnered with HPI Housing Partnership Inc. to revitalize the 1405 building on West Broadway, with the idea being that we could potentially do 2 to 3 floors of senior housing, and then commercial and retail on the ground floor and the floors above that. The idea is that building has been sitting there vacant like that and just totally decomposing for the last 50 years. And it really took a collaborative relationship with HPI, OneWest, and Metro to put together the kind of financing that would make that project viable. The other thing is HPI and OneWest are working very strategically on a comprehensive financing plan that would help us to do about $35 to $40 million in revitalization on that building.
Oh wow, that's great. Yeah. And it's just that building in particular, I think kind of embodies the story of Russell in a way, because it was such a big part of the community back in the day, and started as a candy factory, and then it was a tobacco production warehouse, and it changed hands several times, and to see all that history and that story just sitting there vacant right now, it's cool that you all are revitalizing that, and all of these projects. We've got Passport over here that's setting up shop. Although I've heard that they're hitting a few snags, but the project is alive and well, and we've got the new YMCA building over there.
Absolutely.
So you can see a lot of activity going on in Russell, and hopefully, getting it back to where I think it ought to be.
Absolutely, we're excited about it, and the community came out in large numbers to work on our charrette to help redesign what we're thinking about for 18th Street and for 18th and West Broadway.
Okay, awesome, very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. That's
Absolutely.
Very, very interesting. You just kind of see from this vantage point for the folks at home that can't necessarily see the bird eye view that I'm seeing right now. We've got Brown Foreman over here, Passport, YMCA, all these projects projects that OneWest has their hands in. So a lot of big things on the horizon. So.
Absolutely. We have a board of directors of about 30 people, and Steve Poe is our chairman, and Woody Porter is our vice chairman. And they've been working for the past 3 years on getting the resources and the strategic plan for the area and for our work, and it's coming to fruition. We're
very
excited.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Well, Evon, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for everything you're doing down here, and stand by, folks, on the Russell neighborhood, the rest of the West End. It's coming back.
Invest West.
Yeah, right. All right. I'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.